Think for a second about that Philip K. Dick novel. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Or maybe the movies. Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, yeah. Classic sci-fi.
Right. And you've got these replicants, these androids that are so incredibly human-like. Telling them apart is almost impossible.
The whole Voight-Kampff test thing.
Exactly. But what if I told you that line between human and machine? What if it's blurring right now, not in some, rainy dystopian future, but maybe somewhere much closer, like, say, a university classroom?
Well, it's definitely happening. I mean, artificial intelligence as a term, that goes way back to the 50s, 1956, but it's really this decade right now. That's the definitive takeoff, as our sources put it.
And generative AI, GAI, tools like Chat GPT just exploded in 2022.
Absolutely. Suddenly everyone's talking about it, using it, and it's shaking things up, especially in education.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We want to unpack the really profound ways generative AI and Chat GPT specifically is impacting higher education. We're talking about how it messes with our old ideas about learning, about who the author is, and even what plagiarism actually means anymore.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because plagiarism, historically, well, it was about taking another person's word or ideas. Pretty straightforward, relatively speaking.
Right, stealing someone else's work.
But AI-generated stuff, that's a whole different ballgame. GAI spits out what are technically original works. They're based on human prompts, sure, but the output itself is new.
So it was a mix.
Exactly. It's a blend of human and digital elements. Some of our sources, Belo and Calvo, back in 2021, they called this transhuman, a fusion where you literally can't untangle the human part from the digital part.
Okay, so that creates a huge problem for teachers, right? How do you grade something if you don't know if you're evaluating the student sitting in your class or the code written by OpenAI?
That's the dilemma. And think about the tools we used to use. Turnitin, that came out in, 1998?
Yeah, it feels like ages ago now.
It kind of is in this context. That tool and our basic definition of plagiarism, just copying something that wasn't original, well, they suddenly look pretty obsolete, don't they?
They really do.
And this leads to a really interesting paradox. You could see this AI-assisted work as coming from a transhuman student, this enhanced human-AI combo.
Okay.
But the flip side is, the actual human student can end up being, totally absent from the final piece. They just become a user, typing in prompts. Their skill is just digital competence.
So they're not really learning the core subject.
Potentially not. And here's the kicker. Often, the more detailed and complex the teacher's assignment instructions are, the better the AI's response will be, which, ironically, pushes the student even further out of the loop.
Oh. It almost sounds like those replicants again. The AI mimics learning so well.
It can seem like it, yeah. It can imitate human thought patterns, writing styles. So convincingly, you might think there's self-awareness there.
But hang on. What did the people who actually made these things think? Like Sam Altman at OpenAI. Does he think they're becoming conscious?
No, quite the opposite, actually. Altman, back in 2023, specifically warned against that. He cautioned against anthropomorphizing these things, giving them human feelings, subjectivity, even gender.
So don't treat it like a person.
Exactly. His view is clear. They're just tools, instruments. That's a really important distinction to keep in mind, especially with all the hype flying around. Okay,
so AI is messing with plagiarism, maybe making students kind of absent. But this isn't the first tech wave to hit education, is it? I mean, we all remember the sudden shift to online learning during the pandemic.
Oh, absolutely. That was a huge unplanned experiment, wasn't it? And initially people thought, okay, online learning, maybe this boosts motivation, makes students more autonomous.
Yeah, that was the hope.
But pretty quickly we saw the downsides. More cheating, definitely. More distractions. Sitton wrote about that. Students struggling with time management. One source, Suarez, in 2023, even called the whole digital experience, this post-human experience, almost like a medical condition.
Wow. That's strong language.
It is, and it ties right into what Michael Adrian Peters was predicting around 2023, 2024. He saw AI coming and said, look, education has to transform. We need to figure out responsible human-machine interaction. We need to double down on what makes us human, being moral, psychological, strategic thinkers. Making those holistic judgments, AI can't.
Okay, so we know there are challenges, but let's get specific about Chat GPT in the classroom.
Yeah.
What are the actual pros and cons people are seeing?
Right. Well, a big review by May and colleagues in 2024 looked at exactly that. On the plus side, Chat GPT can be useful. It can help teachers develop materials, brainstorm ideas, even support students with writing tasks, potentially improve some learning outcomes.
Okay, sounds promising.
Yeah, and it can generate different kinds of assessment tasks, give feedback. But there's a significant but.
Uh-oh.
The downsides are pretty serious. The output is often generic. It's not great for beginners. Using it well requires new skills from both students and teachers. It can give biased answers, inaccurate information. Sometimes it just makes up citations.
It makes up sources.
Oh, yes. Falsification of references is a known issue. Plus, it doesn't seem to boost motivation for really complex thinking. It obviously facilitates plagiarism and academic dishonesty, and it can lead to decreased critical thinking. It lacks real knowledge across different types of evaluation.
So good for some things, but really bad for others, especially the deeper learning stuff.
Pretty much. And May et al.
Yeah.
Also noted it's most commonly used in language teaching, which is interesting because another study, Bell Medina and Calvo Ferrer in 2022, looked at that.
What did they find?
They saw some benefits, like for vocabulary richness and coherence in writing, but it fell short on pragmatics. The nuances of language use in context. Students still preferred actual human interaction for that.
That makes sense. Language is so much about context and subtlety.
Exactly. And Peters, whom we mentioned earlier, made another vital point in 2023, especially for subjects like literature. Chat GPT works based on plausibility. It generates text that sounds right, like fiction does.
Not based on being factually correct or verifiable.
Precisely. It's not governed by the rules of the scientific method, correctness, reliability, verification. That's a huge difference. And understanding that difference is key to figuring out how to actually use it productively in education.
Okay, so if banning it isn't really feasible and just letting students use it leads to all these problems, what's the alternative? The sources must suggest a way forward, right? A different approach.
They do, and it's quite radical, actually. The core idea proposed in one key source is to, quote, instrumentalize Chat GPT in higher education for the development of human learning competencies.
Instrumentalize, like use it as a specific tool for a specific purpose.
Exactly. Not just let it run wild, but deliberately structure tasks around it to build human skills. They proposed a task for a North American literature course at the University of Granada that tries to do this.
Okay, tell me about it. What does the task look like?
Well, they focus on essay writing because it's a complex task, right? It makes students use a lot of different learning competencies when done right.
Sure. Analysis, argumentation, research.
All that stuff. Now, the danger is that Chat GPT could just do a lot of that for the student, automating the skills instead of developing them.
Right. The student becomes absent again.
So this new task design flips that. It uses the AI specifically to help students develop competence in using new tech as a learning tool. But, and this is crucial, it requires intense human supervision of what the bot produces. The student has to explicitly detail how they use the bot and show their validation checks.
How does that work in practice? Is it still an essay?
It is. A substantial critical essay, like 3,000, 5,000 words. But here's the mandatory part. Students have to use change control, or some clear method, to show exactly which parts of the essay were generated by ChatGPT and which parts are their own modifications or original writing.
Whoa. So total transparency.
Total transparency. And get this, a huge chunk of the grade, 35%, is for a dedicated methodology section.
Okay, what goes in there?
It's intense. They have to report the exact instructions, the prompts they gave the bot. They have to show the bot's responses. Then they have to explain the criteria they use to evaluate those responses.
So they're judging the AI's work.
Precisely. And they have to identify any errors the bot made, factual errors, citation errors, whatever, and provide proof they fact-checked it. We're talking proper MLA formatted sources, direct quotes, page numbers, cross-reference to appendices with screenshots or copies.
That sounds like more work than just writing the essay normally.
In some ways, yes. And they also have to explain the academic reason why they changed things, why their modification was necessary to correct the bot or improve the analysis.
Okay, I see. But what about the core intellectual work? Like choosing the topic, forming an argument?
Good point. That part has to be done autonomously by the student. Selecting the literary works, justifying why they're relevant, formulating the thesis statement, setting the objectives, that's all on them. That's where they develop initiative, creativity, critical thinking, all those essential skills.
So the AI doesn't get to do the real thinking part.
Exactly. The bot's output is treated essentially as a first, potentially flawed draft. The real assessment, the place where you see if the student has grasped critical appraisal, problem solving, research skills, ethical commitment that's in their process of identifying the bot's errors and rigorously correcting them with evidence.
So the focus shifts from the final text to the process of creating and validating that text.
You got it. Even for the actual analysis section of the essay, students have to show how they instructed the bot and then critically review what it produced. This forces them to practice inference, deduction, applying literary analysis techniques themselves, even if just to evaluate the AI.
And what about the bibliography? Can the bot just generate that?
It can generate a starting list, yes. But the requirement for detailed annexes, screenshots of the bot interface, verified PDF copies of quotes they checked, that forces the student to engage in proper scientific research, critical analysis, and maintain that ethical commitment. They can't just blindly trust the bot's references.
Okay, this sounds incredibly thorough. It seems like it genuinely forces students to be active, responsible, autonomous, to really learn the skills of critical writing and research, but using the AI as a sort of sparring partner.
That's a great way to put it. A sparring partner, or a tool that needs careful calibration and constant supervision. The overall goal is achieved. Active learning, taking ownership, problem solving, mastering, essay writing.
This also makes me think about that transhuman versus posthuman idea you mentioned earlier.
Yes, the source makes that distinction explicit. Simply using AI to get a better grade, maybe uncritically, that's leaning towards the transhuman, just incorporating the tech.
But this approach
aims for the posthuman in their terms. That means humans using digital tools, yes, but from a critical humanistic perspective. The emphasis is on the formative process, the learning journey, the human judgment involved, not just the shiny AI-assisted outcome.
And what's really clever is this method seemed to sidestep the whole "is it the student or the bot" problem entirely. You're not trying to detect the AI. You're evaluating how the student managed the AI.
Exactly. It eliminates that need to play detective to figure out if you're dealing with a human or a replicant, to use our starting analogy. Instead, it actually helps shape a new kind of professional skill set. Well, think about it. Graduates, say, in English studies, equipped with these skills, they become really valuable as essential workers in a world increasingly filled with automated text generation. They're the ones who can supervise, verify, and refine AI output.
The human supervisors of AI content.
Precisely. This fits perfectly with what thinkers like Johannesson were saying back in 2019, talking about the fourth industrial revolution that Schwab described. The prediction was that the humanities would actually become more important.
Really? How?
As the generators of genuinely original ideas, and critically, as the expert supervisors needed to ensure the quality, accuracy, and ethical use of AI-generated products. So this literature course model, it's potentially a template for training professionals who will be in very high demand.
Professionals who can bridge the gap between human critical thought and AI capabilities.
You nailed it. And this whole approach procedural, focused on verification, transparent, ethical. It's not just for literature, is it? You can see how it could be adapted for many other fields.
Absolutely. Science, law, business.
Yeah.
Anywhere where accuracy and critical judgment matter.
So thinking about our listeners, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Well, it really invites you to consider, doesn't it? In a world where basic content generation might become instant and automated, what skills do you need to cultivate? How does your uniquely human ability to analyze critically, to verify information rigorously, to engage ethically, how does that become not just valuable, but maybe completely indispensable?